with Bradley Prokope. Hope I said
Hey,
that right.
yeah, Prokope.
So I read a little bit about you today. So you've been doing production and engineering and recording in music for about what, close to 20 years now?
Yeah, almost 25 years.
25. Wow.
I actually started in high school. I kind of got into it in the last year of high school and then went to audio school straight out of high school and then, kind of dove right in. I quit my job at 19 and, took a gig at fortunately got a gig at a mastering studio under a guy named Phil York, who's actually the guy that recorded Redheaded Stranger for Willie Nelson, um, at a studio called Autumn Sound here in Dallas, which is now Audio Dallas recording studio. And yeah, Phil kind of took me under his wing while I was still in school for audio and just kind of got me started. I mean, it was kind of an amazing, fortunate circumstance where I was one of the lucky ones that found a paying, kind of entry level job there for a minute at this studio and his mastering studio. And he kind of taught me, it was kind of a different entry point than some people, I think, because, I kind of learned things like mastering and we were doing vinyl restoration for Sun Records catalog stuff and things like that. So I got kind of an interesting start. And then Phil actually handed me my first freelance gig. It was a rock band here in Dallas that, he was an older guy at that time. And, it was kind of a young, kind of not metal, but heavy rock band. And, he was like, "Hey, you want to do this project?" And I was like, "Yeah." And so he kind of got me started freelancing. And, that's kind of where it began. And it's been a really interesting road since then, but I kind of never looked back. So, I think I was 19 when that started. So I
That's
just
cool.
turned 42.
Now, were you a musician first?
I was a drummer growing up. Not a great one. Played in, some garage bands, and we were doing, kind of heavy cover tunes. It was in the late 90s, and just we wrote a few songs. Um, I we recorded a little demo at one point in my buddy's garage. His girlfriend's or his sister's boyfriend had a 4-track and recorded our band in this garage. And so yeah, I was a drummer. um but the thing that actually got me into the recording side of it was actually electronic music. I kind of got into the club scene in the late 90s. I was kind of enamored by how they were making electronic music back then. It's not some, being a drummer and, playing in grunge bands and stuff, I didn't have any understanding of the technology for electronic music. And um, I, the girl I was dating in high school, her father was a videographer. Actually, a lot of the listeners for your show may know the show that he was the film guy for. He shot and edited Honey Hole Fishing Magazine. And so he had an avid video editing studio at his house when I was still in high school. And he's the one that kind of showed me, um, I was showing him some, electronic records that we were listening to one day. And he was like, "Well, you know how they do that, right?" And I said, No, I don't. And he opened up a program called Digital Performer, and, had a keyboard set up in his studio and showed me, played some notes, and they appeared on the screen as MIDI data. And I was just like mind blown. I was just like, wow. And so he kind of showed me, how the, early digital recording was working, right around the year 2000. And I was just hooked. I was like, wow, that's so cool. So it's an interesting thing that kind of led me there. Wasn't really like playing in my own band, recording or anything like that got me there. It was more through the technology and just kind of the wondering, you know, how it was all happening, just not really understanding that side of it. And and I got into it originally because I wanted to, keep composing music and writing music and that. But once I kind of got into school for audio, I realized pretty quickly that my strengths were more kind of on the side of helping other people make records, as opposed to kind of creating my own music. I've done a little bit of that, but that's, I kind of fell very quickly into recording bands and helping other artists, do their thing. So that was always kind of my passion place and really still is, you know.
That's pretty cool. You found it that young. A lot of
Yeah.
people go through their whole lives just not finding, what they feel like they were put on this earth to do. And that's good. When you said I kept thinking of like Paul Oakenfold and
Yeah. Yeah.
DJ
Yeah.
Tiesto.
Yeah.
I walked into a place in Vegas and I was like, oh, this has DJ Tiesto still out there. I was like, that's
Man. Yeah, it's crazy. I mean, I still go to some electronic shows now and then. And, just recently I saw some of the old school, things that I used to go to 25 years ago. Some of the DJs are still out playing and, it's great, yeah, I've always been kind of an eclectic listener, I know that your background, having watched a few of these is kind of coming from the metal hard rock side of things. And that was definitely where I was kind of grew up in that as well in the mid and late 90s, starting with, grunge and then punk and then, the heavier stuff like Deftones and Korn and, even things as heavy as like Coal Chamber and Sepultura. And, it's like so I was really very much into that scene, until I found the electronic thing. And then I was like, wow, this is really different, I think it was kind
your sound just cut off.
Oh no. Are we back at all?
No, I can't hear you right now.
Okay, hold on. Let's see here.
It says muted, but I didn't mute. Maybe. You there?
Are we there now?
Huh.
I see the little meter. Weird.
Yes. I don't. You want me to restart it? I guess.
I mean, maybe. I don't know what would have happened.
Yeah. Here. I'll restart it.
Okay.
I'm gonna jump back.